Hi, I'm Nan Simonson. I'm a health and wellness coach with a lifestyle medical practice. So I'm all about lifestyle as medicine as it relates to longevity and health. I wrote Aging Powerfully just before turning 70. That was more than, 3.5 years ago. And the point of it is, the word powerfully is an acronym for 10 lifestyle modalities that we can adopt to live longer, healthier, and more vibrant lives, all scientifically tested. So I am about to make a recipe from a book I just got yesterday. It was gifted to me by Chef John B. Nowakowski. And it was written 24 years ago. It was written, this was printed in 2000. He is a renowned chef and has spent decades and decades working in the field of, I'm going to say, lifestyle as medicine, because he worked with, for 20 years, the Regency House Health Spa in Florida. They practiced for 20 years as a spa to keep people healthy and well, and that cookbook is filled with those recipes. They're close to, they are whole food plant-based, and they are very close to SOS free, meaning added salt, added sugar, and added oil free, even though he uses little bits of oil in some of his recipes, but very, very little, like a teaspoon here or there. We have perfected since then non-stick pans that are safe, as opposed to Teflon that was such a dangerous product. And he probably used a lot more stainless steel than some of us do. Actually, I could cook this on stainless steel. I just happen to like my all-clad pan that is a non-stick pan. So I just put in a chopped onion. What am I making? I am making his wild mushroom sauce. Now, what I don't know is if he means it's so flavorful, it's wild, or if he means wild mushrooms, because the mushrooms that were called for are so available to us now. At one time they may have been wild, and now they're so cultivated that they are available easily in a lot of stores. I'll say most stores, but a lot. Mushrooms such as portobello, fresh shiitake, crimini, which is like a white mushroom that has been allowed to get darker and older to intensify the flavor. Trumpet mushrooms, morels. Now morels are, I believe, still a woodland mushroom, as well as button mushrooms. So we're making this mushroom sauce. Why am I making it? Well, because when I got the book yesterday, I thumbed through it and decided I'm going to make something from this, and decided to make his savory lentil loaf. As a matter of fact, I think I can grab it now. I'm going to walk away from you. And I'll show you photos of this. I'm going to let this sit a minute out of the oven, but I'll show you photos of this plated, because I decided to make, I can put it right here to cool. Is it out of the way? Well, let me just kind of get it out of the way. There we go. Marvelous lentil loaf with vegetables in it, and it's colorful and delicious. And he recommended, when I wrote him to thank him for the book, and in the video that I shot making that lentil loaf, so simply look for Chef John's Savory Lentil Loaf. I may add another descriptive, like Chef John's Fabulous Savory Lentil Loaf or something, but look for that. And I tell a little bit more about this in the story, how I ended up getting this book. But when I received it, I wrote him and told him I'd like to do a video of the lentil loaf, and is there anything I should change, considering that this was printed 24 years ago, and there may have been some thoughts he had about what he preferred. And he said no. He said do it as is, and then he also recommended that it be served with the mushroom sauce that I'm making. So I thought, oh, well then I'll do another video and that will be mushroom sauce. So I'm sauteing sauteing the onions that we're going to use for the sauce. This is so simple. What I'm going to be putting in is I'm going to get these, let these weep a little bit, and one faster way of doing that is to cover them. And then I'm going to add a couple of cups of mushrooms, and I read to you the mushroom options that he mentioned. He said use any of these because they were this or this or this or this or this. Well, I used baby bells. Which is white mushrooms get older, they call them crimini. They get even older, they call them baby bells. They get bigger, and they call them portobello. There's probably a few iterations in there that is slightly different, but that's pretty much the way it is. They just become more flavorful. So I got everything. I got the shiitake. This is a shiitake mushroom. They're almost leathery, and I adore them. I just love biting into one. This one is the baby bell. It's a relatively small baby bell. This one is a slightly smaller, less brown crimini. And this is the part of the portobello, the other half of the portobello that I used. All of these were sliced with their stems except the shiitake. You break the stems off of those. They're very, very tough. And the stem of the portobello. Some people will scrape gills out of the portobello because it darkens a sauce. I didn't mind a darker sauce, so I left the gills in the pieces that I'm using. So I'm going to let the onions get a little more golden. I really want lots and lots of flavor in here. And when you're doing it in a pan without oil, sometimes just the smallest amount of water, if it's sticking, or if it's sticking and you want to deglaze the pan, works really well to give you a little more time to let it get golden without burning. So I'm going to turn that down, and I will be back to you in just a moment when that has gotten the color I'm looking for. I just laid the meatloaf, lentil loaf, on a platter, and I'm going to show it to you because this is what I'm making the sauce for today, though you can use this Chef John's wild mushroom sauce for any number of things, but I made a slice and it holds together well enough that I can show it to you like Did you hear my husband? He went Well, that was funny. It holds together well enough that I can show it to you, and I can. You normally wouldn't be hand holding an entire loaf, but you know what I'm going to do since I've completely blown it? I'm going to taste it this way. Ooh, ooh, ooh. When this came out, I thought, uh-oh, it looks a little dry. My husband walked in and said, that looks really dry. And it looks a little dry. It's moist enough that I could have put a barbecue sauce, any kind of sauce I wanted to on this, even, you know, a ketchup. A lot of people like their meatloaves with ketchup. But we're putting this mushroom sauce on it. Won't this be good? Yum, I can't wait. So the onions are brown. The garlic is worked in with it without getting brown. Remember, I mentioned that you don't want to brown garlic. It will get bitter. Now I'm adding the rest of what goes into this sauce. I have a couple of cups of mushrooms. And in this case, I used a combination. I could have used button mushrooms, crimini, portobello, shiitake. I was going to say porcini. Turn the light on. Ooh, let there be light. I could have said porcini, but porcini, I bought dry porcini mushrooms. They have such a strong flavor. A tiny bit is all you need, or they can be really dominating in a dish. And then I'm going to add the rest. And so I have some tamari, or I could have used Bragg's aminos. That is a salt substitute. We're not adding salt to this. And then I'm adding, this is going to surprise you, I'm following his recipe, 1/3 cup of white or red wine. Now, I don't have to, what I do is I have a bottle of wine. I have another whole food plant-based dish. It's a portobello mushroom pot roast. Fabulous, just like a pot roast with these big, thick pieces of portobello mushroom. That recipe calls for red wine, so I have a bottle of red wine that I keep in the garage refrigerator because we don't drink. And I pull it out for recipes. If you're thinking, no, Nan, I don't want any alcohol anywhere near me, well then use broth. Broth would have been just fine here. But I'm following his recipe. It's a recipe he used for decades at the spa, and I thought, I want to taste this. And then we're adding chopped sun-dried tomatoes, and see how dark they can be. You can sometimes get sun-dried tomatoes that are still red. Sometimes that means they've used sulfur to keep them that red. So I have sun-dried tomatoes, that is optional. I have garlic, the same garlic that I used in the, not the same garlic, but the same treatment for that garlic. And what I mean is the garlic I used in the pot roast is this same garlic. In other words, my roasted garlic. I roast 1.5 pounds at a time, store it, and I describe all of that in the lentil loaf recipe. I meant lentil loaf, I didn't mean pot roast for the description of the garlic. And then I'm adding fresh herbs, and he suggested basil or, something else, basil or tarragon. I don't have tarragon. So I have a combination of my fresh thyme, and it's lemon thyme, that'll be lovely with this, and fresh basil, chopped up. And we're going to cook this with just plain water. We're not even using a broth because there's enough flavor here, and just a shake of cayenne pepper, just the tiniest bit. We're going to cover it for 15 minutes and then thicken it with arrowroot, which many feel is a better choice than cornstarch. It's less processed. It's a more natural whole food. And I'll be back to you in just a few minutes. Okay, we are finished. We have a beautiful, fragrant mixture of herbs and vegetables and mushrooms. I'm thickening it with some arrowroot. I added some water to the arrowroot, cool water. We're going to stir it. It will thicken in minutes. And I'm about to plate our meatloaf, asparagus, mushroom sauce, and then we're going to finish up the meal with an artichoke. We usually start the meal with an artichoke, but it just worked out today that the artichoke's going to finish all of this. All right, I hope you enjoyed this. I'll be showing you photos at the end, and give me a thumbs up, subscribe, I hope you learned something and enjoyed it, and I hope you have a great day because I know I'm going to. Bye-bye.